Okay. Send out the Twitter stuff and make sure that my Twitch page is muted, and we should be good. So, hello everyone, this is Chris Ingerson, and it is September 26th, and this is the September 26th TextQuest Devstream. So, today we are going to be polishing some things up for GDEX this weekend. I'm going to be over in Ohio, in Columbus, attending GDEX, which is a big Midwest gaming expo. So I'll be seeing a couple of people that I know there, showing off the game, and hopefully people will be hopefully people will enjoy TextQuest. So they enjoyed it pretty well last year. I'm looking forward to going back there again this year. This will be my second year there. In any case, so like I said, today we're going to be polishing stuff up for GDEX, and that's going to specifically involve two main things. The first thing that we're going to do is going to be pretty light. It's going to be a little bit of coding. We're going to make our interaction reticle fade when we don't interact with things for a while. So let me go ahead and pull up the castle level. I'll show you what I sort of mean when I say that. And after we do that, we're going to switch over to this scene, which is the sewer combat scene, and we're going to port all of the cutscenes that are used for the battle animations over to Timeline. Currently, they're using a third-party asset called Cinema Director, I believe. Or Cinema Suite, which has a thing called Director. So yeah, and it's a decent asset, but it just had some problems in the past that Timeline addresses, and since Timeline is natively integrated into Unity, I would prefer to use it. But Cinema Director is overall, it served its purpose when I needed it, but unfortunately now that Timeline is a thing, and I haven't really made a ton of cutscenes with Cinema Director, I would like to move everything over to Timeline. In any case, so let's go ahead and play. Also maximize on play. So the way the reticle system works right now is you have a square reticle in the center of the screen, fairly standard there, and when you are close enough to an object to interact with it, and you're looking at it, the reticle will change to a little crosshair, which of course you'll see if Unity ever lets me play. And that behavior itself is fine, we're not going to change that, but what I would like to change is, so you can see that there's a square reticle right here in the center of the screen. What I would like to change is when you don't interact with something for a while, I'm thinking 10 to 15 seconds, that center reticle will actually fade out. And then when you get close enough to interact with things again, it will actually fade back in. And we might end up fudging that a little bit so that even if you're not close enough to interact with something directly, if you're just outside of that range, like by, I don't know, within 5 meters, we'll still fade it back in. I'm not sure that's something we're going to have to sort of ballpark, see what we like about that. But the main thing there is that it's a small little feature that I would like to do just so that you don't always have this reticle in the center of your screen, but you will have it there when you need it. So, because for the majority of gameplay, you don't really need that reticle. It's there to let you know when you're interacting with something. But by having it fade out, I feel like it'll be a little bit more. What's the correct word? Immersive. There we go. Got to use the big word. The big I. I think it'll be a little bit more immersive just to not have that reticle always be in the screen. And also it will, when people want to take screenshots, it'll be a little bit easier for them because you won't have this massive, well, I say massive even though it's a tiny square, but you won't have this glaring white square in the center of the screen. So, all right, let's go ahead and stop playing. And to start off with that, we have our interaction. And interaction is the script that handles the actual ray casting and interactions with objects in the environment. And what I would probably do here is we're also going to need to do something real quick. Here we are, HUD view. Let's go to definition, pull this over, move interactions over here. I'm also going to move we're also going to cache HUD view, I think. There's no reason for me to constantly do UI.get. I might as well just cache all of that once. So let's see here. We're going to have what do I want to do here? Let's go ahead and say public float interaction fade. Oh, reticle fade time. No. So the float I'm going to name here isn't the actual time it takes for the reticle to fade in or out. Rather, it's the time that it takes for the reticle to just start its fade transition. So I guess I would call it interaction delay. Dang it, I can't even think of a variable name for this because I feel like there's an appropriate term, but it's kind of slipping me right now. Well, in any case, we'll just go ahead and call it interaction delay. You know what? Nuts to that. We'll just call it reticle delay. And we'll say 15 seconds. We'll say 10 seconds for now. I'm also going to go ahead and tooltip these things. So tooltip, how long before, well, I should say how long it takes for, no, that's not correct. How long the player, geez, now I can't even think about how to phrase it, even though I literally just described it to you. I guess it'd be time before, okay, I know how to do this. Time without interactions before the reticle starts to fade out. The HUD's interaction. Sorry, my headset just went out for about half a second, which means my avatar's broken. I'm going to stop talking for 5 seconds. Okay. I wish I knew why it did that. Give me a second here. It's more annoying than anything else. Mostly because it only happens once, and I have no idea why. In any case, let's go ahead and go back to our code. So we're going to say tooltip distance at which the too far message is displayed. Tooltip distance the player with objects at. All right. Minor tool tipping updates, and now we're going to go ahead and cache our HUD. So we're going to say private HUD view cached HUD. Yeah, we'll do capital HUD. Private HUD view cached, not UE, cached HUD. Get return, nope, gone. Return cached HUD, question mark, cached HUD. Otherwise, cached HUD is equal to UI.get HUD view. All right. So now I'm just going to go ahead and replace all of our wonderful UI.get HUD view stuff here with cached HUD. This should mostly just improve efficiency a little bit. I don't think that UI.get was really that terrible. All it was doing was looping through a list of views underneath itself, and then it was returning one. But, this makes it also a little bit cleaner. Alrighty then. Input view, input view, input view. Grab that. Grab that. And oh my goodness, so many references to the HUD. Who would have thought that I would need to talk to my head so often? Paste and paste. Alright, should be good. Actually, you know what? Is can interact even a thing? I guess it is. I guess I'm always interact. Oh, right. I always have to interact. That's right. I was going to say, shouldn't I have this wrapped in a it can interact? But no, that's because I need the reticle always has to update. In any case, let's see. That is almost everything that we need from this. I'm also going to go over here. Let's see. Set info, hide info, show darkness, hide darkness, show crouch. Oh, crud. Yeah, that is going to actually... Okay. So whenever, I just thought about something. Whenever you enter a dark area, your reticle turns pink. So let's go ahead and go to the sewers, actually, because that'll be a good place to show you this. Not sewers combat, just sewers. Once Unity compiles. So once you go into a dark area, the reticle actually changes colors to be pink. And the reason for that is I wanted something that was a very obvious visual indicator that you were in a dark area. There's also text that pops up at the bottom of the screen that says it is dark, you are likely to be eaten by Gru. But I was kind of relying on the reticle in the center turning pink to be a very fast and easily seen visual indicator. So, for example, if I run into this dark spot, you'll see it's pink now. Then once I leave it, it goes back to being white. So it's not terrible. And what we'll probably do is instead of not, well, when you go into a dark area, we'll fade the reticle back in super quickly, just so that it's obvious that you're in a dark spot, and we want something in the center of the screen to just visually indicate you're in the dark. Now we might fade it back out after a while again, but we would still retain that it is dark, you are likely to be eaten by a Gru on the bottom of the screen. But mostly I just want enemy. Well, I guess it doesn't really make sense. We'll just try it. We'll see what we like. We'll see if we want the reticle to pop up right away, or if it should, be delayed. So let's see here. Show crouch indicator, distance indicator. All right. I am going to go ahead and say up here, public void show reticle, public void hide reticle. All right, and do we have coroutines in here right now? Yes, we must. Otherwise, I don't know why I would have system.collections. There it is. Because we're going to need to fade it across time, obviously, so that means we need a coroutine. And let's also go ahead and say up here, private float reticle time, set that equal to 0f. Alrighty then. So we're gonna have to figure out where the best spot is for this. Also might try to work in interaction layers here. So currently, the way the interact script is set up, it's using magic numbers to detect the layers that work for interactions, which is just the interactive layer, which is layer 9. And I have a layer mask up here. I might go ahead and replace all of my layers with that. So if I do that, I don't know if that'll actually work. Good, it does. Hooray! It's kind of convenient. There's not really a reason that I had to convert that. I just wanted to have a layer mask that I could potentially change if I ever needed to. I won't ever need to really, but just in case, it's good to have those things in case. In any case, let's see. So we need to do a couple of things. So if we don't hit anything, which is there, correct? Yep. All right, we're going to go ahead and say reticle time minus equals time dot delta time. So if we don't interact, if we're not looking at anything that's interactable, then we're going to count down that reticle time. And once it reaches 0, we'll tell the, I guess I should also do that. If reticle time is greater than 0f, then do that. Once it reaches 0, we will say HUD view fade, or fade the reticle. And then we'll go ahead and say if reticle time is less than or equal to 0f, cached HUD dot, sorry, not fade, hide reticle. Okay. And let's see here. I should probably say, I should probably have a check here. Well, no, I guess I can just do, let's go to interaction. Actually, no, I need to have it, don't I? Okay. I can't really fade it that well. That's kind of frustrating. I was hoping that I would be able to basically set the reticle's alpha, but since it's an image, that means I have to set its color, which is annoying. So let's see. I have in dark vitality, which is a strange name for that, but that's a holdover from the old days. Let's see here. Do I really not have the color for its default color? That's kind of funny. I must cache it. No, that doesn't make sense. Huh. I guess I don't. That's super weird. Let's look for in dark vitality, find all references. Show darkness icon. Oh, I double. It's always fun going through old code. Let's see, show darkness icon, reticle color equal dark color, default color. Here we are. Oh, right! The color is set. That's right. Okay. So the color of the reticle, I forgot, is set to actually match the default color of the text that you use. And for the most part, and for any demo, or for the demo, it's always going to be white. But once you beat the game, you'll unlock colors that you can swap the default white color of text for. And that will affect every UI in the game to make it that color. So if you want green text instead of white text, then everything that's white will be green in the UI. Just as a nice little reward to allow people to mess with the game. I probably should go ahead and say public. No, it should go above that. So let's go ahead and say public float default color. We'll say default alpha is equal to, looks like it was 0.4f. Let's go ahead and tooltip some of this. So we're going to say the alpha value for the reticle when it is the default color. I'm just going to do that so that I can come back down here and say hide darkness icon, put that there so it's not a magic number. Give me a little bit more control. And I think, yeah, so the trick here is, how do I want to have like a getter that says reticle is visible or is reticle visible, something like that. But I'm not entirely sure what the best way to do that would be besides having just a straight cached bool, but that doesn't seem as helpful. The main thing is that when you we need to account for things like the fade starts to happen, but then you start interacting with something by looking at it. Then we need to just stop the fade and start fading back up super quickly. So that's not super helpful. Let's go ahead and work on the curve range for this. So the curve range here, these are basically just utility classes. I thought it would be fun to have a nice little editor scripting to start off with. I say start off with, even though it's 20 minutes in. But The idea is that this will just be a class that has a two float values and then an animated curve or an animation curve. And basically, we'll have a start value, an end value, and then a curve between them. And it'll just be a nice thing to have in the inspector if whenever we have to drive curves between two float values. I thought it would be fun to do. So close this utility window. All right. So it's not going to be a mono behavior. It's going to be a system.serializable. Oops. System.serializable. All right. We're going to say public float start is equal to 0f. Public float. Oops. Float end is equal to 0f. And then public animation curve is equal to new animation curve, and we'll say keyframe 0f, new keyframe 1f. All right. So let's go ahead and say public curve range, and that's essentially just going to be all this again. And there we are. Let's go ahead and also say public curve range, and this one will take a float start value, float end value, and then params. Is it keyframe? Yeah. Keyframe. Keyframes. We'll say curve keyframe. Curve keyframes. All right. So we're going to go ahead and say this dot start is equal to start value. This dot, nope, that didn't work. No capitalization. This dot end is equal to end value. And then this dot curve is equal to new animation curve, and then curve keyframes. Sweet. Do I really need anything else? Not particularly. I suppose I could have some convenience functions like public float evaluate float t, and then we'll just say return curve dot evaluate based on t. Oh wait, no, that's not quite right. Yeah, I would have to do this. mathf.lerp based on start and end, then evaluated along the curve from t. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I guess that's actually kind of nice. I can just pass it a generic float value and it will give me an accurate float value for the range. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of the extra white space. Let this compile. And to start off, I'm just going to have it be in our HUD view, and then I'll show you what it looks like by default. Then we'll make our custom property drawer to show how we can make it look better. All right, so let's see, where should I put it? I guess here. So we'll go ahead and say public curve range, then reticle fade is equal to new curve range. So start value will be 0.4f. Ah, dang it. That actually won't work. Because we need our value to be responsive. Darn it. Well, we can still finish it just because I do know it'll be useful at a later date. But just not right here. That's kind of disappointing. Reticle fade to 0. F, and then new keyframe. Actually, you know what? ahead and leave it like that. And how do I want to handle this? Because it kind of sucks. I was going to make a custom constructor here that doesn't need the params, which I guess params keyframes here will still work without this, but I would like it if it doesn't have curve keyframes to be the default S curve, so 0, 0, and 1, 1. So I might just go ahead and say curve keyframes dot length is greater than 0 question mark, and if that's the case, it's going to be that. Otherwise, it's going to be this. Cool. So now I can go ahead and come back to HUD view, leave that as is, and let that compile. Then I'll look for the HUD view. And of course, Unity compiled as soon as I selected it. Okay, come on. I believe in you. There we go. So this is what it'll look like without any sort of editing. It'll just be one big sort of drop down. But we can actually collapse this down to 2 rows and show only relevant things. Because we don't really need these labels here. We just need the label for the main variable itself and then the fields. So let's go ahead and say curve range drawer. Good. Using Unity editor. All right, and we're going to say property, nope, not attribute, property drawer. Then custom property drawer, type of curve range. Cool. So we're going to say override, get property height. We need the property height to be the same height, or the default height times 2f. Then we'll go ahead and say public override on GUI. Get rid of the base on GUI because we don't actually need that. All right. Then we're going to say position dot height is equal to editor GUI utility dot single line height. Yep. Good. Then we'll go ahead and say editor GUI dot label field. Then we'll just give it the position and label. So that's going to be the actual portion of our variable that's just the variable name, as well as any tooltips that you need for it. We'll also go ahead and say after that position dot y plus equals position dot height, and then we're going to have to kind of weirdly divide this. So we're going to say, do I need a new rect? I do. All right. So I'm going to have to do this. Nope. Rect, we'll say field rect is equal to new rect with position as the original rect. And then we'll go ahead and say field rect dot width is equal to 50. Seems right. Then we'll go ahead and say position dot width minus equals field rect times 2f. So I need fields on both sides of my curve. Then I will have, did that wrong, field rect dot width. Then I'll be able to basically have a float field on the left, float field on the right, and then an animation curve in the center. And before I forget, okay, almost done. Then we'll say editor GUI dot property field. We'll say property, property dot find property relative, and that is going to be, oh right, we need position. So field rect, okay, and that's going to be start. Then we are going to go ahead and say position dot x plus equals field rect dot width. Paste this in here. Finally, we're going to need to say field rect dot x is equal to property dot x plus property dot width. Width. Okay. Because I did that wrong. It's not property, it's position. Position dot x plus position dot width. And this will be end, and we will end with, well, technically not end because it's going to be in the middle here. We will middle with curve here. Cool. So now if we let that compile, gotta click off of our HUD, otherwise the editor won't work properly. When we reselect, sorry, that's a weird tongue twister. When we reselect the HUD, you should see that it is, oops, I forgot one key component of this. GUI content.none. Yeah, if I don't say GUI content.none on these, then they'll try to have labels, which will basically bork everything up. So now you should see everything snap into place. And that's interesting. That's really curious, actually. I did add my position. Interesting. My position is all kinds of messed up here. Because this should be our curve, but it seems like it's somehow relegated to, oh wait, I know why. Because I'm not using my position there. Duh. Okay, I was going to say, that's not right. It shouldn't look like that. Although that is a pretty cool effect. The animation curve overlaid by the float field. And then, there we go. That's what I was hoping for. So now we have this, basically we have float values. So we have our start value. We know we're going to lerp from that to the end value, and this will be the curve we use to lerp through that. I suppose I'll add a little bit of space. So I think I'll actually say times 2f, and let's go ahead and double wrap this. Then we'll say plus 10f, and we'll say plus 5f. Okay, just to give us a little bit of space between the fields and the curve field. So we should see this sort of shrink in just a little bit. There we go. Oh, right. I almost forgot. Gotta say plus 5 here. Okay. Now those will we'll have a little bit of space, makes it a little bit easier to read, and everything should actually look pretty nice. So it's just a shame that we can't use that. Yeah, I completely forgot that I'm going to need to remember where the float value is, so I can't actually cache it like that. It's not, well, no. Yeah, that won't actually work. That's disappointing. Alright, so we are going to need to, oh, we're done with this, so we can actually just go ahead and close this, and close our curve range, because we can't actually use it. Disappointing. Let's see here. Distance alpha, default alpha. We'll go ahead and say public float hidden alpha is equal to just 0f. Go ahead and do a tooltip. All right. Alpha value for the reticle when it is hidden. All right, and next we're just going to need regular animation curves, I guess. So public animation curve. We'll call this reticle fade curve is equal to new animation curve, new keyframe, 0f, 0f, then new keyframe, 1f, 1f. All right. And we're just going to go ahead and duplicate that. And we'll say reticle, and we'll call this reticle fade in curve, then reticle fade out curve. Dang it. Yeah, we're also going to need separate float values. All right. actually not. Don't remember exactly what these. Right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get a couple of more. Public float fade. Well, reticle fade in duration is equal to, say 1f. I feel like I might have to shorten that to half a second, but otherwise public float reticle fade out duration is equal to, say 2f. Not too fast, not too slow. What else do we need? I think that'll about do it for that. So I guess I don't want to. That will not work. Okay. Yeah, so nope. Yep. Okay. So I'm going to need to say private bool is fading is equal to false. Then we're going to go ahead and say public bool is hidden is equal to, oh no, sorry, that's going to be a getter. So get return reticle dot color dot a is equal to 0, not equal, say less than or equal to 0f. So if it's hidden, then that means that its color is less than or equal to 0. Then we're going to go ahead and say public bool, crap, is fading could mean that it's fading in though. Dang it. Okay. Trying to think of this in a way that's not stupid. I'm not entirely sure I can get away from it, though. So I guess we'll say is hiding. Get return. No, return is fading. All right. So God, this is really annoying. I almost wish I had an enum instead, just because I kind of. So I guess there are 4 states that the reticle could be in. It could be visible, it could be hidden, or it could be fading out or fading in. I feel like a single bool check is not really enough. And the problem is that when I'm basically telling the reticle that it needs to be shown, I don't want to call that every single frame. I only need to call that if the reticle is hidden and I start to interact with something. Geez, that's really annoying. So, do I want to make an enum just for that? That seems like a lot of work for not a lot of gain. All right. Yeah, I guess that will be fine, because then that will reduce me down to 1 getter and 1 state check. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and say public enum reticle state, derived from byte, because it only has 4 values, and that's going to be visible. Say that's equal to 0. Hidden is equal to 1. Fading in is equal to 2, and fading out is equal to 3. All right. So now instead of a bool here, we're just going to get rid of pretty much all of this. Instead of a bool, we're going to say reticle state and reticle state. So let's say return. Nope, I haven't changed that yet. So there's going to be reticle state and reticle. Wow, that did not work out. Reticle state, capital S, because we got to use proper formatting here. It'll be visible by default. Don't really need that. Okay, kind of weird. So reticle state. I'm guessing it's because of actually the name here. Yeah, so we'll change this to current reticle state. Yep. All right. Cool. So we'll go ahead and say if current reticle state does not equal reticle state dot fading in, or no, not or, and current reticle state does not equal reticle state dot visible, then we'll start fading in. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for hidden. So fading out and hidden. And these are just safety checks so that I don't constantly start coroutines that I don't need to start. And I guess we'll go ahead and write our coroutines for this now. So let's go ahead and say private enumerator. I'm just going to make them separate coroutines. So fade reticle out coroutine. Let's see. Do I need to pass any parameters? No, not really. I probably am going to need to set up a cached color so that I can just lerp between two colors. Well, no, that won't really. Ugh. Jeez, this is going to be a nightmare. So I actually do need to. I need to store the color of the reticle. That way, in case the reticle fades out when you're not in a dark area. And actually, you know what? Here, let me just. I'm going to comment this out and then walk through the level to show you what I mean. So let's put up a hypothetical situation where the reticle fades out because you haven't interacted with anything for 10 seconds. And let's say you were in a well-lit area, so your reticle is the default white color. If you go into a dark area, the reticle isn't going to pop up unless you look at something to interact with. But we need to be able to know that that's the color we need to fade to. So if we go into the dark, it's pink. Come back out, it's white. But we need to know which color we're going to fade to. So that means that we have to calculate out. Dang it! So we have to store those colors. That is infuriating. All right. Oh, and that color has to change live, which means that I can't just store it in the coroutine locally. I actually have to. Cache it and then use that when I'm lerping. Okay. Of course, I thought this would be simple, and then of course I always overcomplicate it. So before we can even actually do anything with that coroutine, I need to come up here, and we're going to have to say, jeez, this is annoying. Private color, hidden color is equal to color.white. Private color visible color is equal to color.white. And I suppose I should probably have that be above the other one. Okay, so those are basically going to have to be set anytime the reticle color changes. Not ideal. Not ideal at all. All right. So fade reticle out coroutine. That means that. Let's go ahead and say show darkness icon. Nope. Up here. There we are. So if it's not fading, then we're going to go ahead and say what is it? Visible color is equal to reticle.color. Then hidden color is equal to reticle new color. Can I give it a color? Ah, of course not. Visible color dot R, visible color dot G, visible color dot B, then hidden alpha. Okay, then we'll go ahead and say start coroutine, fade reticle out coroutine. Oh, and we'll do it in the coroutine itself, I suppose. We'll go ahead and say reticle state is equal to reticle state dot fading out. Then at the very end, we'll say reticle state dot is equal to reticle state dot hidden. It's going to be at the bottom of our coroutine. We're going to go ahead and say float t is equal to 0f, while t is less than fade out duration. Yield return no. T plus equals time dot delta time. And actually, nope, not even that. It's going to be less than 1 divided by fade out duration. All right. Actually, that's got to be first, doesn't it? All right. So this is going to be our actual fade out code, which means that we need to lerp between our visible color and our hidden color. So we have to say reticle.color, not collider, color is equal to color.lerp, then visible color, then hidden color, based on fade out curve dot evaluate along t. Okay, so let's just test this to see if this even works. So before we can do that, we need to actually say, actually no, this is already set up, isn't it? Aha! So, okay. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and say private void start. And in start here, I'm going to set our reticle time to be reticle time is equal to, I have something called reticle delay. Oh, right, that's what it is, reticle delay. Okay, so let's play, and we should be able to see our reticle fade out after 10 seconds. Once Unity compiles, of course. Which will take roughly 2 centuries. All right, there we go. See, the secret is berating it. That makes it compile faster. Okay, so what should happen is we should see the reticle as expected. And let's give it 10 seconds before it fades out. I hope. I probably should have stuck a debug in there just in case it decides not to. It could also potentially actually still be hitting things. So let's actually go ahead and change this code a little bit. I think I need to actually do this. Maybe I should just put that in a function. Otherwise, I'm going to have that duplicate code like everywhere. So, because I think what was happening there is that it was actually raycasting against the wall. Even though you can't interact with the wall, we weren't telling it to, count down. So let's put that there. That should work. And I don't think anything else is necessary. Yeah, I think we'll also need it here. All right. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and just grab our player prefab and shorten that time to like 5 seconds. Just so that's a little bit faster. Come on. Scripts, prefabs, player, hero. Do I have interaction on here? No, but I can grab it. Oh, no, it is. Okay. Here we are. Let's shorten that to 5. Make it a little bit easier for us. All right. So let's see if this reticle fades. I'm hopeful. Any second now. And no. All right. Either that or I'm incredibly impatient and I literally just cannot wait for more than uh, 2 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and put a debug in here. So debug.log test. That should be good. Current state by default is set to visible, so yeah. All right. So let that go. I have to admit, I did not think that it would take me an hour to get reticle fading working properly. But then again, I guess I did pretty much overcomplicate it, like I normally do. Because I wanted it to be super fancy and only fade after certain things and only when you're not interacting with objects. So let's see. I do not think that it's calling it. So that means that it's not properly timing out. Yeah. Also, these errors, they're not actually errors. It's a weird quirk of Unity working with substances. Don't know why it does it, but apparently when you instantiate, or when you create an instance of a substance live in the engine, it just freaks out. It still works. Everything's fine. It just throws an error for some reason. No idea why. Okay, so you're not working. And that means that I am actually going to go ahead and make this a function. So private void, we'll say countdown reticle. Wow, that's terrible. Decrement reticle time. Because that's such a better name. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy these into here. Let's go ahead and paste this here. And we're just going to replace all of this. Here we are. Oh, no, that's not. All right, let's go ahead and I'm just going to debug our reticle time here. Debug.log reticle time. Mostly because I'm curious if it's even decrementing. And if it's not, that means that I have missed a spot and slipping through the cracks. Because there are a lot of weird checks that go on here that basically determine if you are actually interacting with something. So let's see here. It probably could actually be streamlined a little bit to make it less messy, but eh. All right, so that should be good. Reticle time is greater than 0f minus equals time dot delta time. All right, so yeah, we should be good. Go ahead and let that go. Pretty much what I would expect here is. Save? Nope, I did. Okay. Pretty much what I would actually expect here, instead of this weird reticle non-fading, I would expect it to fade, and then obviously it would never be able to fade back in because we haven't set up that logic. There it is. It is not calling it. So that's good to know. That makes me think that a couple of things are happening. I am guessing that interact is getting through this if statement. And let's see. So the interaction layer. Ah, here we are. This was why. Because I was stupid. I was only decrementing time if the reticle wasn't the normal reticle. Obviously, that's not what I want, so I need to change this logic a little bit. So I need to do else, bring this down, put this within the else loop, or else statement. There we go. So let's go ahead and do the same thing here. There we go. So that should fix our issue. Let's go ahead and grab this. And that was mostly a safety check so that I'm not always doing processes when I don't need them. So this should fix that. Of course it was something like that. It always is. Clear out our errors, and we should be good to go. Once Unity compiles. Aha! I willed it and it was so. So, There we go. And aha! I like it. So this is what I was talking about. Basically, if you don't interact with something for long enough, then the reticle fades out, makes it a little bit easier. Or not easier, makes it a little bit more immersive because you don't have that reticle in the center of the screen. But then we need to fade it back in when you actually start getting close enough to things to interact with them. So let's go ahead and stop playing. Let's go down here, get rid of this debug because we don't need it. Come back over here, get rid of that. All right, so that's. Hey. Trying to think about this. I actually think I need to store this coroutine and stop it manually. Because if I just do stop all coroutines whenever I fade the reticle in or out, that will actually potentially interfere with things like the info text coroutines. So the HUD is like the weirdest thing I've ever worked on in terms of overlapping coroutines because they're all they're not really related to each other, and they need to be able to independently be activated and deactivated. And I can't deactivate every single one of them, otherwise they could cause weird issues, like a message being half alpha and never going away. So I can't really do that, which means that I need to store this coroutine. So I'm going to go ahead and say private coroutine, reticle coroutine is equal to null. All right. So if show reticle, if all this stuff is true, we're also going to go ahead and say if reticle coroutine does not equal null, then we're going to say stop coroutine reticle coroutine. There we go. And then we'll say reticle coroutine. Oh, actually, I guess I can't really do that yet because I haven't coded this. Let's go ahead and go down here. Private IEnumerator fade reticle in coroutine. And we'll just go ahead and say, I guess it's going to be pretty much the exact same code, isn't it? Let's go ahead and get rid of this, paste this in here. It's going to be fading in and visible by the end here. And let's see here, hidden color to visible color. Paste that in, reticle fade in curve, and reticle fade in duration. All right, so all that should be good. Let's go back up here. We're going to say reticle coroutine is equal to start coroutine, then fade reticle in coroutine. Oops. There we are. And we're going to do the same thing down here. Oh, and I suppose... Oh, that is... yeah, this is going to be interesting. Okay, that's somewhat more complicated. Yeah, alright. Sorry, I need to figure... Ah, geez, that won't even work. Ugh. This is going to get a little messy, or a little bit messier than I thought. I think we're going to run into problems when we start fading in and out rapidly. I don't think that the system that's currently in place is going to handle that very well. So we'll have to probably rework that at some point. For now, though, we should be... Oh, and actually, you know what? No, I already did that. So let's go ahead and just set up fading in for the reticle, and then we'll test that out, and then we'll worry about the more complex interactions after that. So let's see here. If we can interact with an object, we're going to want to say cached HUD dot fade, no, not fade in, show reticle. And I'm not too worried about constantly calling that since we have those safety checks. Let's see. Do I need anything else? So the only place I really need to care about it? Not particularly. but that probably wouldn't hurt. All right, let's go ahead and try this out. I'm curious to see if this will feel right. So basically what should happen is if you don't interact with anything for 5 seconds, the reticle will fade out. And then when you get close enough to interact with something and you look at it, the reticle should fade back in. Oh, you know what? Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and come down here to these, wrong thing, to the coroutines down here. And once they're finished right here, I'm going to go ahead and say reticle coroutine is equal to null, because there's no point in storing this coroutine if it's done. Okay, there we go. So this should have everything function, if roughly. And then we'll be able to see if it feels right, how fast it fades in when you start looking at things. Because one of the things I need to avoid is I don't want to fade the reticle out and then have it take long enough to fade in that you might miss an interaction somehow, or not realize that you can interact with an object because maybe you were whipping the camera around super fast. But okay, so if I just walk around, should have it fade out. All right. Then if I come over here, okay. Of course it didn't work. I'm willing to bet that it is because of the reticle check again. Actually, no, that doesn't even make... All right. Let's put the debug in there then. Oh, I know what it is. I need to reset the why can't I think of it? The reticle time, because otherwise it's going to stay at 0, which means that as soon as I show the reticle, it's just going to be told, nope, hide yourself again. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of this. I'm going to move it down here to a different code block. We're going to say private void show reticle. So we'll paste that in, and we'll also say reticle time is equal to reticle delay. Okay, then we'll go back up here. We'll say show reticle. That should work. So that should constantly reset it. Do I want it to... Yeah, probably. Alright. I'm a little worried about having the reticle fade out if you're just not close enough to interact with things. But I guess that's not really too much of a problem. So, alright. Let's try this out. Shazam. Alright. So, fades out. No! Still not doing it. Which... Oh. Oh, something's gone wrong, actually. This is interesting. It must be because of the interaction stuff. The reticle layer must be throwing it off. Let's see, interactive. Do I need to do interact? Here we are. Dot value. There we go. That was why, because I was being silly. So it was basically never going to fade back in because it couldn't. It never matched up the proper layer that the object was in. Therefore, it never would have triggered that reticle change. So now we should be good. Completely forgot to make sure that that would work. All right, one more time. Higher hopes this time. All right. Let's run over there. Probably take us about 5 seconds, honestly. And no! Dang it! All right. Make sure that. Okay, well that worked. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that this is coming out true, which is rather frustrating. Although, well, no, because if it came out true, then we would see this debug, wouldn't we? Fine, let's just do this. Debug.log, interaction layers. Okay. I spell interaction. Oh, it's because I spelled it iteration layers. Of course. Interaction layers. Dot value. And we'll also go ahead and say hit.transform.gameObject.layer plus, then we'll have a string divide, and plus this. All right, so this should basically let us make sure that they're the same, that they're in the correct layers. I don't know why this wouldn't be correct. I mean, worst comes to worst, I can always go back to having a magic number in my code that's 9, but I'd prefer to keep this. I mean, this should be, yeah, the integer value, which means that it's probably doing something stupid. Like this layer is not matching up between these two layers. I'm willing to bet that's what it is. Because, of course, Unity can't make this easy. Actually, I'm willing to bet that the interaction layer, since they're a mask, it's probably converting it into a bad number. Wait there. What the? Why didn't you work the first time? What the heck? See, now it works because I friggin' debugged it. Yeah. That's just how it works. Ugh, go figure. I also just like to point out that I didn't change any code that would actually change that behavior. It just decided to start working. The only thing I did was put in that debug. Because we already tried the value and that wasn't enough. So, all right. Yeah, I like that. And like I said, 5 seconds I feel is too short, or it's too short. But making it 10 to 15, that's pretty good. Might shorten the fade in, like I said, to about half a second. I think that'll help with that. But then we have to deal with this, entering the dark, coming back out, because now that reticle will never fade, since it thinks that it's hidden already. So let's go ahead and make those adjustments. So we need to come down here to interaction. Let's change our reticle. We'll keep it at 5 for now, because we need to test this. But our HUD view, HUD. Collapse some of this, make it easier. HUD, let's see, reticle fade in duration, we'll make that 0.5. Fade out, I think that actually feels pretty good at 2. Is there anything else I needed to do? No, I think we're pretty good there. All right. I could make that easier on myself. Well, all right, let's go ahead and give this a test to see how it feels. So we need to figure out how we're going to handle darkness, because that reticle changing to pink is kind of important, since it lets you know that you're in a dark area. Oh, geez. Actually, it becomes really important if you don't have a light. Well, no, once you have a light, it actually becomes very important. That's really annoying. I get close enough without activating it. There we go. Sorry. So, 5 seconds. That should have it fade out. Pretty good. And yeah, I think half a second's good. Fades out. I am a little worried. I mean, maybe I shouldn't fade it completely out. Maybe I should just fade it out to like 0.01 or something. So it's basically almost invisible. It's hard to say because I do like having it fade out, since it means that you don't have to always have that reticle there. But at the same time, it also makes it kind of hard to look at objects, since you never know if you're going to actually be interacting with them. I could Yeah, I could make it so that if you tap the E key or click or anything like that, if you do any sort of thing that's supposed to try to get you to interact, we can fade it back in right away. I actually really like that idea. So let's go ahead and I'm not going to delete you. I'm going to comment you out just because I'm superstitious. All right, let's go back down here to interaction, which is of course going to be all this fun stuff. If hit container does not equal null. I guess we'll go ahead and say show reticle. So I'm basically just going to call show reticle every time I would open input view. So do that, do that, do that. Actually, can I just... I kind of feel like I should just be able to call this... Yeah, okay. So I don't actually need to call it 4 separate times. Because there's... At least one of these will always be true, which means that I can just do this, I think. Right? No, actually no. But I can't do that. Okay, let's go ahead and try that out. So now, if the reticle goes away and I click, or if I hit E or enter or any of those things, the reticle will fade back in. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Hour and 15 minutes of reticle stuff. I bet that's what people tuned in for. And it fades out. Then if we hit E, oh, and nothing. And if I click, nothing. Oh, that was weird. Okay, so I have to actually be potentially interacting with things for that to happen. Dang it. So if you just... that's not good enough. I don't want it to only show up if you click while possibly being able to interact with things. It needs to always happen. This is really annoying. Because that basically means I have to do this. Let's see here. So that's if it's equal to that. Gah! Of course. Let me think. Ay, 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 ay. So that's kind of annoying. I guess I'll just do this, because that kind of works. Alright, so if at any point while time is decrementing I click or press the E key, then it should bring everything back up, even if I'm not actually interacting with anything. So let's give that a shot. Here, all right. So fade out, and yay! I know that seems like a weird thing to do, but I mostly do it just because I feel like if you're mashing the E key, it should basically always be visible. The reticle should be. Just to let you know that you're trying to interact with things. And then, of course, after 15 seconds, if you don't click or press E, it'll just fade away. Simple as that. Okay, let's go ahead and stop playing. I think we will also get rid of show here. So now we need to figure out how to handle um, the different color situation, because it's not really super great. So let me think. Nope, that will not work. So the way color is currently set, where we're just setting the visible and hidden colors when hide is called, uh, that won't really work properly. Let me think. The way things are currently set up, I have a color for the when you're in the dark, but it might be better to actually have, because we don't need the alpha there. So if we just only get the RGB values of the color, then we can just have the reticle always be at its default alpha when it's visible, and at its hidden alpha when it's not. So let me go ahead and try public color. I know color 32 is a thing. Dark color. We'll say color 32. I wonder if color 32 has a magenta. It doesn't. Dang it. Is equal to new color 32. And these are bytes. Yeah. Dang it, it does have an alpha color. Okay. I wonder how Unity does its internal colors. I thought there was like an RGB. Color RGB? No. Because I don't want the alpha. I actually just want the RGB colors. Let's see. RGB? No. Let's try Unity engine internal dot color. Nope. RGB. Huh. All right. I'm actually curious about this. I want to look this up real quick. Unity RGB only color. Let's see. Gotta sneeze. Excuse me. So it's weird because there are certain fields that Unity has internally that are RGB but not alpha colors, and I would actually like to have that field. So I kind of wonder if that's something I would have to make by myself. That would be really, really dumb. Let me think. Is there an example of this that I can use somewhere in the scene? I can just do it on a particle effect. Oh, wait. I have to wait for it to compile. Let's see. Let's do RGB no alpha. So I guess it's just a color field setting. I wonder if that means that I can do this. Maybe. Oh, well, look at that. So I can just do that. So that means that it's okay. So it's always a RGBA value. It's just that the field will only allow you to set the RGB component. So you should see the white line disappear, if this is correct. Where my cursor is, and it's gone. Okay. Well, that's actually pretty good. So we will no longer actually have alpha values passed here. Instead, we will just use the RGB values, and then we will use the default alpha and hidden alpha values for our fading. And actually, this is kind of convenient because that means that we could, if we wanted to, allow our or use our curve fields or curve range, but it's fine. Um, so actually, no, we couldn't because we still need to store the alpha value. But that does mean it does make things a little bit easier for us. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. We're going to say tooltip color. We'll say reticle color. Reticle color when in dark areas. Or actually, I probably should just say generic HUD color because it's not just the reticle; it is the full HUD. Actually, this will be interesting as well because I wonder if that still has the correct alpha value. Because we're not just using it for the reticle, admittedly. We are also using it for our HUD, for the text that pops up. So I'm a little concerned that maybe this will break that, but we'll find out in a second when I try to run into the dark. All right. Let's go ahead. Give that a test. All right. So when I run into the dark, it should say it is dark. You're likely to be eaten by Gru. All right. So I guess that's still fine. It just has 100% alpha, which is again fine. Although that is, yeah, that's a little problematic. Let's see here. What do I need to do to get this to look right? We have our color. That's all we really care about. So, let me think. Hide reticle, reticle color, visible color. So, yeah, this is not great. Oh, and I also forgot to do this. So this is the reason why we can't use the reticle.color anymore, actually, because we're going to be crossfading it all the time. Which kind of means that I need to set this differently. Ugh. No, actually, I lied. Because we can just do this. New color, reticle color dot r, reticle dot color dot g, reticle dot color dot b, and then default alpha. All right. So that's pretty good, but we do actually need to do some other things. First things first. Actually, are we even doing anything? Oh yeah, we are. We're using it for ourselves, basically. We're only using it within this. Yeah. Let's go ahead and change this to. Let's refactor this to current reticle state. Copy this, and then wherever you're used, which is in these 4 spots. I don't think I need that public getter. It's not really being used by anything outside of the HUD right now, so I can get rid of that. And we are also going to need a private float reticle fade time is equal to 0f. All right. Think. So, where are you? Here we are, show reticle. So, when I start fading, I need to, because again, I was talking about how if you go back and forth between interacting and non-interacting in quick succession somehow, like the reticle starts to fade out, but then you look at an interactive object. I don't want it to just snap to invisible and then fade back up. Instead, it should actually start fading back up from where it already is. So that means that if you only got halfway faded out, then it should only take half of the normal time to fade back in. If you get 3/4 of the way faded out, then it should take 3/4 of the way to fade back in, etc., etc., etc. So let's see here. I think I'm going to say if reticle fade time is greater than or equal to 1f, then reticle fade time is equal to 0f. Else reticle fade time is equal to 1f minus reticle fade time. I believe that is correct. Basically, I want the inverted value. So let's go back down here. I can always just do this. Go to definition. And instead of t here, I'm going to go ahead and say reticle fade time is less than 0, or less than 1f. I'm going to fade this in. Do I need t anywhere? I do need that there. I suppose that means that I should actually just go ahead and say reticle, no, not reticle fade time, dot color is equal to visible color, and reticle fade time is equal to 1f, just to get things to their appropriate values. Let's see here. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing for hide. Come down here, paste this in. Hidden color should be good. And let me see here. Do I need anything else? Yes, I do. I need to get our reticle. This, here we are. I'm going to do the same chunk of code here, basically, right here. I don't know if I need this here. I don't think it makes sense to do that. I'm just going to leave this. I'm going to comment it out for now. Because I don't think I really need to set those colors. Oh, I lied. No, I totally do. Because there's a possibility that they haven't been set yet. So, that's great. Which actually kind of means that I need to do that here as well, I guess. Alright, and finally for show reticle, info, show darkness, here we are. Oh dear. Default alpha. Okay. Darkness, reticle color. That's all good. So instead of directly setting the color here, we're going to have to just say we just need to set those color values, I suppose. So we'll have to say visible color is equal to dark color. Then I'm just going to grab this because I'm lazy. Hidden color is the same exact thing, just with different alpha. Let's grab this. I'm not going to grab you. Same thing, except we're going to move this up. All right. I think that will work. Oh, wait, hold on. I almost forgot. Yep, I almost forgot to change the T in the fade out coroutine. So we can get rid of you. And paste this in now. All right. So now I think it will all behave as expected. At least I'm kind of hopeful that it will. Only took an hour and a half. So what should happen now, expected behavior, is if we start fading out and then we look at something to try and interact with it, it should uh, stop the fading out and then start fading in, and that fade in should take less time because it hasn't faded out all the way yet. So let's give that a shot. And it should also be able to handle going in and out of. Wow. Nope. 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 That did not go well. Okay, not close enough. Let's see if it fades out super fast again. Nope. Okay, that was just me then. So we're gonna let it fade out, and I'm gonna click. Good. So it's a little hard to see, but I'm also gonna try to. Oh, that's not friggin' good. Oh, goody. How are you not the correct color? It's because I'm not changing the color of the reticle. That's why. Yeah, that makes sense. So, crud. Crud. That's annoying. Let's see. Show darkness. So here's the real weird thing, is that I should actually be setting visible color correctly, but it doesn't seem to matter. So I'm going to try to get right next to the darkness, then let it fade out. Actually, no, I'm just gonna run into the darkness and see what colors it thinks it should be fading between. And again, it snapped out of it, because of course it did. Debug, it's white. Great. Just great. I don't know how it's getting set to that. Oh, wait, no. Yes, I do. I lied, because I'm silly. It's because we're setting the visible colors before. Yeah. So I really don't think I should be able to do that then. Yep. Great. That does not seem correct. Let me think. I kind of feel like I should, let's go ahead and just do this. I'm gonna grab this, and on start, I'm going to set all that stuff. No, I'll do that. We'll do it on start. Okay, so we're explicitly setting our visible and invisible colors at start. We're not going to set it right before we show or hide the reticle, because that obviously causes problems. So this should behave as expected. Let's find out, I guess. Let's go ahead and play. All right. So it should fade out, no problem. That coroutine drives me nuts. Give me a second. That kind of makes me think that I should make my reticle fade time like 1F, I guess, by default. If it's greater than or equal to, let's just go ahead and say or reticle fade time is less than or equal to 0F. I might as well. Honestly, it's just because I hate initializing with anything besides 0F for private variables. But also, I do need to have this check here for both cases. So let's go ahead and paste this right here. That should cause that problem. The issue there is that the first time the reticle fades, it doesn't actually fade, it just snaps to invisibility. and that's because it was saying it saw that its value was not equal to 1 or greater, which means that it was instead changing over to 1 minus 0, which is obviously just 1, which means that it instantly finishes its slurp. So this should address that issue. Okay. So now it should gently fade out. There we are. And if we go in here, good. If we go outside, yeah, that's a little bit more problematic now, isn't it? Yep. Crap. Then, okay. Let's go over here. So I think what we're going to have to say is if current reticle state is equal to reticle state dot visible, then we'll just say reticle dot color is equal to visible color. I think that will solve this issue. Yeah, so you'll notice that the problem there was that the reticle color didn't actually change until it started to fade out, which makes sense because I didn't actually tell the reticle color to change, but I wonder if we should try to make that a little bit smoother instead of a hard set change. Also, why is our alpha value incorrect? If we can set our alpha value again. I didn't change anything there. Weird. Okay. Super strange. Well, in any case, let's just test this out. Let that go and fade out. And then when I fade back in, we should be good. And if it's visible, it should fade. Good. If I fade out, we're good. Fading in, fading out. Yeah, it's fine. All right, so we're going to fade in. We're going to let it fade out while we transition to the dark. Not bad. Well, so I am a little torn. I mean, everything looks nice. I like having this fade here. But no, also, actually, I want to check if I just keep staring at this, will it fade away? Because it should not. So, nope, we're good. All right. So my main concern here, and it's kind of a minor gripe because it probably could be addressed by some other things, is that without the reticle always being visible, it won't turn pink when you go into a dark area. Although I could just tell it to become visible if it's in the dark. That's not super great though. And actually that would cause problems because that would mean that I would have to communicate with my interactions that I'm in the dark. Otherwise they would never reset their counter. So if you went in the dark and then came out, it wouldn't actually fade away again until you interacted with something. So, I mean, it's nice. I really like the effect. Because the main problem is that a lot of people will sprint and then they'll see their reticle change color and then they'll back off. I'm a little worried that having the text at the bottom of the screen is not enough of a presence to let you know that you are going into the dark. I kind of feel like the reticle is a much more easy to spot thing. So that's not great. All right. I am torn. So uh, yeah, I'm really not super happy about that. I don't really know what to do for the solution though. Is the problem. Um, um, what to do about this? It is a weird issue. I'll grant you that. Um, and I think so. Basically, the way around this, without having a permanent reticle, is I need to have an icon display. Well, I say icon display, uh, but similar to the crouch indicator, I would need to have some type of text that just pops up and says in dark. Uh, so, for example, go ahead and play real quick. It's weird now the color field is back to normal. So if I crouch, if you look at the top left, it'll say crouched. Um, I I kind of feel like it should have an in dark indicator as well in this case. In absence or in lieu of a permanent reticle that will change color to be the expected color, I probably should have something similar to my crouched indicator that says in dark or something like that. Um, I just, I'm not. Again, it doesn't really solve the core issue though of having something in the center of the screen, and I would prefer not to have text in the center of the screen that's going to be there for as long as you're in the dark, because that's the problem. Is the reticle served as a visual indicator that you were in the dark, because the message "it is dark, you are likely to be eaten by a grue" only is only displayed if you don't have a light and you're standing in a dark area. But if you do have a light, that message actually goes away, and the only thing that's left is your pink reticle. But that's not good enough now because the reticle can actually fade. Um, and if that's the case, I would actually kind of prefer to allow it to fade away so that people can have, again, a little bit more of an immersive experience. But I need something. I can't just not have it there because then you don't know if you're in the dark without unequipping your light. And that's terrible design. So I short of having an actual marker at the top left of the screen, I honestly don't know. Um, let me think. I can't really think of a better option. Go ahead and pause. So we would probably put it right here, right? Let me think. Yeah, I guess I could probably actually playtest a couple of games tonight. Like just go on a couple of games with stealth mechanics and see how they handle crouching or displaying that you're crouched. Because I could always do something like Skyrim, have that eye that shows up. But I mean, that's the thing though, is you're not really sneaking. And I'm sorry, that was I went off on a tangent for crouching. You're just in the dark. So, I'm trying to think of actual games that make being in the dark a important mechanic. And I mean, the only thing I can think of, honestly, is Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I'm not going to do a screen effect. I don't need my screen to go all wobbly whenever you're in the dark. That makes no sense. Um, then what could I do? Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. I guess I could just put it over here. It's not ideal. In fact, I'm kind of worried that it'll cause problems, but well, I don't think I can really get away from it though. So, yeah, that's not ideal, now is it? Oi, um, wow, I am apparently just stumped by this. I'm putting up the design label. Uh, God, what would be a good solution? I mean, I guess really top left is kind of the only thing I could do. Um, hey, it's just not really super great. Ah, also, it complicates my interface up here quite a bit. Because currently, the crouched is just a fade in, fade out effect, but I would actually have to change that behavior a little bit. So instead of just being an in or a fade in, fade out, I would need to have it slide on screen, um, because I would want the in dark to stack basically, and that would basically mean that so crouched, if you aren't in the darkness, would just say crouched like this, but if you were in the dark, we would need another label to come in that says darkness or maybe in dark or something, um, and that would just fade in. Well, it would fade in, but it would also move downwards. So crouched would basically no longer be here. It would actually be somewhere closer to where the pipe is on screen right here, because the darkness is more important. Therefore, it needs to be closer to the top of the screen. Um, Also because crouched is something that you can change at will, which means that you could just potentially crouch, then uncrouch, then crouch, then uncrouch, and just do that really quickly, and that would sort of like bobble the in dark indicator. We don't want to do that. That gets kind of frustrating. So, oy, that's going to complicate things. Geez, that's really not super great. All right, I think I know what I need to do. I'm not going to have fun with this though. Go ahead and stop this. We're going to go to our intro scene, wherever that may be. Other splash fade. I need the UI object. So what I'm going to do is I think it's going to be a somewhat complicated setup. Um, I'm going to need a vertical layout group, and I am also going to need a um, a very specific setup with masks, which is going to be great. So let's go ahead and open up our UI. Let's drag in our HUD. All right. So you can see here that, let's see, crouch indicator is just a label that spans the top of of the menu. Turn it on, you can see it. Let's turn around and make sure we're at the correct spot. But now it's not actually going to be like that. Instead, we're going to have a little bit more of a complicated setup. So I'm going to go ahead and come up here, overlay background. Why on earth? Why? Ow! Why is that a thing? Sorry, that was like solid white. Is that even used? Oh, right, the effect background. Okay, I remember now. Right. Yeah, I need that actually. I forgot about that. Okay, so we got to leave that in there, but that's fine. Da, 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 da. So I'm going to call this status labels. Let's go ahead and turn this on. We're going to have this be anchored to the top left. Position 0, 0. And then it's going to get kind of wonky. So we're going to say add component, layout. We need a vertical layout group. Child controls size, both width and height. All right, so we're going to go ahead and make a child object. We're going to give it a, where are you? Layout element. And oh boy, this is going to be super fun. I'm going to need a custom script for this actually. I am going to have to use layout element though. We'll give it a min height of 0. That's fine for now. Status labels will also need a layout object that is a content size fitter. It's going to be vertically sized to its min size. Horizontal to preferred, I think. All right. I'm not sure how well this will go. Not very, actually. Oh, crud. No, it's definitely not going to work very well. Yeah, okay, I don't need that. Let's just go ahead and say unconstrained on the size there. We'll just make this, I don't know, 100. Let's try 300. Let's give this a little bit of height just so I can use this rect. So 300, is that correct? That seems fine. 200. Yeah, okay. Let's do 250. Yeah, it's fine. All right. All right. So what we're going to do here is, so we have our game object here. I'm going to call this my crouch. We're going to move this to here. Hit continue. Crouch indicator is now still going to be stretched across the top vertically like that. 0, 0. What's our size here? Don't really need that. Our height will be 50. All right. And yes, we'll be left aligned and vertically aligned, I suppose. Center aligned is probably fine there. But we do want it to be left aligned still. Let's go ahead and have padding from the left by 10. Yep, that looks good. All right. So this is going to be tricky because I'm basically going to need to have this slide in like this. So let's go ahead and say 0 here. And what makes this really fun is that while that's sliding in, our min height needs to also be increasing from 0 to 50. And we are also going to have a mask here. So mask, actually, you know what? Let's remove that. Let's make it just a rect mask 2D. And now if we move our crouch indicator up, you'll see that it's getting clipped. That's important to make it look like it's sliding on screen. So we have this weird, we're gonna have this weird scaling going on, kind of, but not really scaling, and we're gonna have positioning going on, but not really doing much positioning. And the reason for that is if I just scaled this vertically, yeah, you'd see this happen where it's like crunched, and that looks wrong. So I don't want to do that. Instead, I want it to have a more smooth effect. So I suppose I should probably change this from design to code, because we're going to do that real quick. Let's see, scripts, HUD view. Let's go ahead and create a C# script. Call it status label. Open this up. Reload all. I probably should call that HUD status label, shouldn't I? Yeah. All right, let's do that real quick. HUD status label. Oh, goody. Unity crashed. Okay. Thanks, Unity. Oh, what a perfect time for it to crash. Well, at least I have this open, so... Alright, let's go ahead and start coding then. So using Unity engine.ui, we're going to need public layout element. Actually, no, now let's just make this cache. So private layout. Oh my goodness, layout element. Cached layout element. And private layout element. Cached layout element. It's going to be a getter. So get return cached layout element question mark cached layout element else cached layout element is equal to get component layout element. All right, and we're also just going to go ahead and say require component type of layout element. All right, and I need to go back to the correct level. And I also need to find my script because otherwise it's going to freak out. So, what did I call it? Status label? The reason I wanted to have HUD in front of it is because combat might at some point have a status label that it needs, so I'd prefer to have this explicitly be the HUD. Come on, Unity. You can get back up there. Alright. Go ahead and open this back up. Oh, what the heck? Weird. Unity got de-maximized. Alright. Let's go ahead and jump back to our scene. Because when it crashes, it just opens the the scene that the last safe closing had open. So splash fade. Come on. I believe in you, Unity. Even though you did just crash on me, so I have very little reason to believe in you. Oh my goodness. Well, that's going to take an eternity. So, while that's going on, let's go ahead and say public float hidden height is equal to 0f. Public float visible height is equal to oh, hey, you know what we can do here? Aha! Public curve range. Let's just say display height. Layout height is equal to new. Curve range, we'll say 0f and 50f. Pretty convenient. Let this go. Let's turn on our UI. Back down to the prefabs. Ah, frack. I have to redo all the friggin' work on the UI. Well, fortunately it wasn't much, though it is kind of annoying. So let's turn this all on. I could have sworn that I also habitually saved, but apparently not, so what do you know? Or I guess what do I know? Let's go ahead and, again, anchored at the top. Left corner, 0, 1, 0, 0. Give it our layout components. So layout, vertical layout group, control from the left by 10. And then we're also going to say layout, content size fitter, vertical fit is min size. Okay, let's go ahead and call these status labels. Status labels. It's going to be our crouch. Okay, let's move our crouch indicator. Let's turn that on, move it up below this, continue. Let's see, stretch that 1 and 1, 0 and 0. Width we said was 250. That seemed correct. At least I think it did. So let's see here. Status labels. All right. Let's go ahead and grab our status label. That's all correct. Min height. Layout height is correct from 0 to 50. That's all good. Let's go ahead and say public float show duration. Jesus, I cannot type is equal to 0.5f, I guess. Then public float hide duration is equal to 1f. Let's go ahead and tooltip these. So tooltip, how long it takes for the label to become visible. To become hidden, I suppose. Layout height, that's all good. And let's go ahead and say public rect transform label. And let's go ahead and say header. I'm try to use headers a little bit more often because they're kind of convenient. Scaling. And let's also go ahead and say header. This is going to be interesting. I wonder if it'll let me do 2 headers in a row. It does. Positioning. Spell that right? Positioning? Yeah, I think so. Then public float. Well, no. We'll just do another curve range. Curve range. Label position is equal to new curve range. We'll say 0f, 0f. I honestly don't know what this is going to be. It's probably going to be something more like 50f, I guess. So when it's hidden, it's going to be 50f vertically, and when it's visible, it's going to be 0. That seems correct. So let's see what that looks like. Okay. Once it pops in. Oh, I forgot duration. Actually, I guess we'll just use this, won't we? Yep. Which kind of defeats the purpose of these. So let's go ahead and move these up. I don't really think I need my headers anymore. So, a little disappointing, but should be fine. So let's let that compile. Alright. So, oh, I almost forgot. I need to add my mask effect, don't I? Let's go ahead and add UI rect mask 2D. I'm going to go ahead and move this up too. Here's our label. All right. And I think that's good. So let's change our height to 50. Oh yeah, let's also change this. And if we change our position to 50, good, and our position to 0, so I was right there. Let's go ahead and disable that. Crouch 50 to 0, that's fine. Show duration and hide duration, that's fine as well. And layout height, okay. So let's go ahead and before we try to set up the darkness indicator, I'm going to just test out the crouch indicator, see what it looks like when it's in motion, because it's kind of important to have a sense of what these things look like. So let's see here. We're going to want to say public rect transform label. It takes for the label to become visible, to become hidden, label position. Let's get our actual coroutines going. Which, again, we're going to have to do what we were doing before, where we stop it midway through. We need to be able to catch that. Using system.collections. Alright, so we're going to say cached layout element, private coroutine, move coroutine is equal to null. Alright, so private enumerator. I was trying to think of how I could roll these into one coroutine, but I think it's fine to separate them. So we're just going to say show coroutine. Public void show. We'll just do show. And public void hide. This one is going to have a similar premise to our reticle, but since this never really needs to change its color or its alpha values, at least not beyond what's expected of it, I think I can get away with some cut corners here. So I think we can just do this. Private bool is showing false. Get a public bool is showing. Get return is showing. So that's just going to be true if it is currently being displayed or if it's in the process of being displayed. And it will be false if it is not displayed or if it is in the process of not being displayed. So if it's basically being hidden. So that, I think, will work. I don't think I need 4 stages because I don't really care if it's transitioning. All I care is if it should be showing or if it shouldn't be showing. All right. So we're going to say is showing is equal to true. And we are going to need some float values. So private float move time is equal to 0f. All right. While move time is less than 1f, move time plus equals time.delta time divided by show duration, then yield return null. Hello, Scorpio. How are you doing today? We are currently setting up status labels in the HUD because we have to add a in dark status label since we have our reticle fading in and out now whenever we're not using it. So let's see. So is showing is set to true as soon as the coroutine starts. We're going to increment our move time. By the end here, we'll just say move time is equal to 1f. And okay, so while that's all going on, let's put this here. We are going to do a bunch of stuff. First things first, we're going to say label dot. I think it's anchored position is actually what I want. Anchored position is equal to vector2 dot lerp. Oh crud. Well, it's vertical. So I think this can be a little hard set now, which is fine. So we're going to say, you know what? That's not. Ew. Okay. So let's go ahead and create 2 vector2s here. We're going to say, actually, you know what? I bet. No. Yeah, it has to be done in start. All right. So before we do that, let's go ahead and comment this out. Go ahead and say private void start. So in start, we're going to initialize some vector 2s. So we're going to say private vector 2 hidden position to vector 2 dot 0, and private vector 2 shown. We'll say visible position. Visible position is equal to vector 2 dot 0. All right, just got off band. I was upset Saturday. I had time off at 3. I was ready to watch the stream. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I had a buddy of mine that came over with very little notice, and it's very difficult to stream without or while I have guests. Mostly because I'm torn. Obviously, I wanted to stream, but I'm also from the Midwest, and when I have guests, I must dote on them constantly. That's just how I was raised, so I apologize for that. And I also apologize that I had to cancel the Sunday Devstream as well due to some other things. But at least we got a stream today, which is good because today is probably the last stream for about a week and a half because Thursday I'm probably going to be crunching a little bit to get the build finished up for GDEX this weekend, and then this weekend I'm going to be in Ohio, so I'm not going to be at home, so I can't stream. And then next week I'm going to be in Austin, Texas for Unity's conference, Unite. So that means that I will not be able to stream then either. So next Saturday I will have a really big stream to make up for all of that, hopefully. Because I would like to continue to work, and I will probably be recovered, by that Saturday. So yeah, it's always a little frustrating during convention times because I obviously can't stream as much, and then I feel like if I don't stream for a week and a half, people just forget I exist. I mean, it's not their fault, obviously, it's because I'm not streaming. But in any case, I need to say visible position is equal to new vector 2. We'll say label dot anchored position dot x, and then not label dot anchored position dot y, rather shown. No. Label position dot end. Okay, let's go ahead and copy this. So this is going to be hidden position, anchor position dot end, and then dot start. All right. So we're just going to lerp between these two vectors. We're going to say, so this is the show coroutine, so hidden position and then visible position. And that will all be evaluated based on label position dot evaluate. Oh, I guess that actually will not work. Oh, that's a little annoying. Curve dot evaluate along move time. There we go. Okay. And let's see. So that's our anchored position for the label. That should lerp between our hidden and our visible positions. And finally, in addition to that, we are going to need to say cached layout element dot min height is equal to mathf. Oh, it actually, you know what? This one I can do. So I'm going to say, crap, what did I call it? Layout height. Layout height dot evaluate along move time. All right, so we will end with label dot anchored position is equal to visible position, and cached layout elements dot min height is equal to layout height dot end. And that is all I need to do for that, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, copy, paste this in. This is going to be our hide coroutine. So is showing is going to be set to false. Same thing, except there's going to be hide duration. We're going to reverse these. position not curved. Dot evaluate. Yeah, I kind of need it to go backwards, don't I? Well, no. That should be fine then. It's not perfect, but it should be fine. Cached layout element dot min height is equal to layout dot evaluate. Bah. Stream doesn't seem to be working. That's not great. Well, that could be a little annoying if my stream just stopped working. Uh, hmm. Hmm. Okay, I'm going to try disconnecting and reconnecting the stream to see if this this fixes it. So we'll be back in a second.